Can you see that all okay, Paul and everybody
Yeah, I
else?
can see that.
Yep,
Perfect.
fantastic. So I thought we'd start off. This is just the itinerary. You can download this off our website. So I'll show you where to get that just before we start. So this is our website here, and you just go to the tours tab, um, and then from there you basically roll down, and then the San Sebastian Toulouse is here, the Pyrenees, and then a little bit further down is the Italian. You just click on that and you'll get each of these. So anyway, we'll try and keep it around an hour. I've got another client call after this actually. So hopefully we'll be able to keep it on track. So let's get into it.
Yeah, I mean, David, the idea for today being the first webinar such is more just to give a pretty overview of
Yeah.
both tours, and then I guess from that point in a month's time or whatever, we can see who's coming on, I guess, which tours or who has interest on which tours, and then we can go and do a bit more detailed presentation of each trip. But I think it's a good time now. We've already, over both tours, have about 8 or 10 in total booked. So there's bookings are starting. And so it's getting to that period where I guess it's a good chance to give an overview and then go down in more detail in the future as well. Pyrenees is one that really excites us because having lived in Spain now for nearly 12 years, it was the first mountainous area that we really got into it with our cycling tours. And obviously from there, year after year, it branched out. But every chance we get to do the Spanish and French Pyrenees, we absolutely jump for. And a lot of people don't know about the Spanish Pyrenees, so they always hear about the French. So the fact that we get 2 or 3 really classic rides in the Spanish Pyrenees before moving into France is a real bonus for us as well. So we'll show some photos later and you can see the scenery that's also there. This trip, San Sebastian to Toulouse, is really good. It gives people the chance to also enjoy San Sebastian if you're coming to Europe early because it's just a beautiful resort city. It's small enough to get around by foot, has the beach, it has the tapas bars, pinchos bars in the old center. Just a really good spot to have a couple of days pre-tour to get over any jet lag. And then we get straight into, I guess, the riding through to Asaba, which you can see down there, which is our first base just inside the Spanish border. All these tours, as people have done the epics in previous years, they know that we can create fairly challenging rides, but we also are very smart with how we choose the hotel location so that, okay, there might be 2 big climbs each day, but you can do the first climb and know that going past the hotel, you can drop in and say, that's me for the day, or you can continue on and do the second climb. And I think clients really enjoy that aspect of it, that some, there's many clients who do it all, but there's also the chance to take an easy day or an easier day and do that. So this is exactly the same. There's rides from, example, Saba over to France into La Runs, and you can do Pierre de Martin, which is a classic Tour de France climb. And then to get to La Runs, you could ride the Flat Valley ride, or you could go also over Col du Marie Blanc. So there's always endless options. Flexibility is always the key. Multiple vans and riders on the road at all times. So we like to create these options for everybody. As this Pyrenees tour moves through the middle to the end stages, it's when we start to tick off, I guess, the big Tour de France climbs. So you've got Col d'Aubisque, you've got Col du Tourmalet, there'll be How to Come in there, Spandels as well. And then as we're getting towards Saint-Lary-Soulan, which is the final 3 nights, we have the chance to also visit Cirque de Tramousse and Cap de Long. Now, these are 2 big 15 to 20K Pyrenees climbs, which the Tour de France just cannot get to. So they're in national parks. The tour would love to get up to these old glacier locations, and second highest reservoir in France on Cap de Long, but they're not allowed to go up there. So asphalted roads, road cycling havens, we can get there, we can do it all. So this tour's got the best of intersecting some of the great Spanish Pyrenees climbs, which are a bit more obscure and not everybody would ride if they didn't come along, I guess, on a tour like this. Then you got the core of the Tour de France, so you're making sure we get all of those big bucket list climbs as well, and you're getting untouched Tour de France areas which they just can't get to. So The Pyrenees is a great place for cycling. Obviously, you can do trips to the French Alps, Italian Alps, which we'll also present later. But the Pyrenees, an advantage for me is that they have also good sections of valley roads. So often in the French Alps, you're riding like a jagged chainsaw, you're going up or down, and there's very little time just to cruise along a valley and enjoy. The Pyrenees, when you go over some of the climbs on the route to Tourmalet, you've got the 25-kilometer flat bike lane. You've got the valleys, 20, 25 Ks through to Mari Blanc. There's just many, many uh, options to create real cycling routes, not just up and down all day. So that's a real advantage of the Pyrenees for us.
Yeah,
I don't
fantastic.
know, David, if you want to move down
Yep,
to a few of the photos. Yeah, th this is one of the photos
yeah,
on the thing here of Aubisque. It's in the last kilometer and a half of Aubisque, and you've got the other side of Aubisque from Argelès, which is closer to the Midi-Pyrenees, but coming from La Runze, it's really the climb side, which the Tour de France loves to use from the west, and that's the way we ride it as well. So coming up out of La Runze, you've got this Hors category climb on the Aubisque with mountains all around. Beautiful spot. Again, valleys. This is what the some of the other big mountainous areas don't have. The Pyrenees allows you to have, well, it's still false flat probably there, a couple of percent, but it's not like just climbing 10%, 8% climbs all day. You get really agricultural landscapes combined with the big 2,000-meter elevation summits as well. Laurel is one of the lesser known climbs, so it's probably been used in the Tour 5 or 6 times. Tour de France in La Vuelta has been used more, but it's up in the Arati forest, about an hour northeast of Pamplona, and it's obviously the Laurel, Port de Laurel. It's got the Spanish climb side and the French climb side. It's a challenging climb. It's always used in a Grand Fondo every year up in the Arati extreme, and it's one of our favorite climbs. We might see 2 or 3 cars for that whole 2 hour climb. So it's famous, but it's lightly trafficked, which makes it an even more enjoyable experience. This is one of the another classic. Obviously, it's just the photo in the itinerary, so it's been cropped. But this is Cirque de Trémousse, and Cirque de Trémousse takes you up, and the last 4, 5 kilometers are behind a barrier. So you can see a vehicle, but that's would have been a national park type vehicle. Now, from the last few years, the last 4 Ks, only cyclists, and there is a tourist little train, like a vehicle train that takes people up. So you can ride this basically again by yourself with probably more switchbacks. Yeah, you can see more switchbacks than Alpe d'Huez. So you got all these climbs in the Alps which have a bit more marketing, a bit more name to them, but Cirque de Trémousse will make you work all the way to the top, but also give you just the most amazing landscape and scenery. So we love that one for sure. Yeah, looking towards the top end of the Tourmalet. Some days you get a bit of fog and cloud, other days you get blue skies. It's 2000, just 2100 elevation. So yeah, it's a mystical mountain, you know. It's always the clients always love to get to the top of that one. It's got the huge giant statue, which is commemorating Octave Lapisse, which was a French rider back in 1910, who was the first to climb and get to the top of the Tourmalet. And there's lots of legends around that. There's lots of stories, and the reason was that when he got to the top, apparently he said to the organizer at the top, "You guys are all criminals." Because they're riding old school bikes on gravel roads at that time, and he basically thought they were out to kill him, basically. So that's the statue of commemorating him there, which everybody loves to get obviously individual and group photos, and it's like you got 2 Ks to the summit, and then you can see this giant statue there. So it sort of just gives you that, incentive there. Okay, I'm going to make this, and it's a classic 19K climb. Again, we get through forested areas. It's not just up in barren, rocky landscapes. The Pyrenees is really green and lush. Yeah, it's a beautiful spot for cycling. That's just a group photo that we had
Yeah,
when we rode through there.
cool.
So we won't keep going on too much more about the Pyrenees in terms of the itinerary, but the difference here is that this itinerary is a 9-night, 10-day trip, basically because this tour riding in the Pyrenees is very easy in terms of logistical to zigzag across between Spain and France. Whereas later, when we talk about our Slovenia, Italy trip, when we get into Italy, we're doing the Dolomites and also the Stelvio, which are two distinct national parks. So there's a moving day between the Dolomites and Stelvio, which makes the need for that trip to be a 10-night, 11-day trip. So that between the two epics next year, that's really in terms of the overall scheme, the only difference. One's a 9-night trip and the other's a 10-night trip. Just because the Pyrenees, you can more easily access all the routes.
Yep. So we just got a few images.
Go through these images while we're still talking about the
Yep.
Pyrenees. This is one of the reasons why I personally love the Pyrenees, because often other areas are more big ski chalets and townships, but when you're riding through the Spanish or French Pyrenees, you're intersecting more villages, and with those villages, when you're pulling in for a coffee or a lunch stop, you often get the locals totally interested in what you're doing because they don't always see groups coming through. So they stop and you have a chat and a bit of a banter with the locals, which is always fun as well. So this is just on the climb just out of Isaba. We do a lovely rural ride. This is the climb that links to Pierre de Martin, and it's the Spanish Pyrenees. People think Spanish Pyrenees barren, dry, but no, they actually, on the sections that we ride through the Arati forest, they actually look like the Dolomites. And it's basically riding the Spanish Dolomites at the Pyrenees with maybe 5% of the traffic of the actual real Italian Dolomites. So the Pyrenees wins if you're looking for a really off the back roads, low traffic, big climbs. It's just that's where the Pyrenees for me come in. Again, this is the now on the French side. This is going up Col du Tourmalet,
It's
just
Caroline.
yeah, Caroline came across from Victoria this year and conquered all the climbs. She was a little bit unsure how she go, but she was in the end one of the stronger riders. She just
Oh,
did not
really?
give
Wow.
up. She just kept going. I think she was trained by you, Dave.
She was trained by me. Yeah, I
You
looked
made
after her.
everything. You made
Made
everything.
made it easy for her.
Yeah, it's incredible.
Yeah, yeah. She struggled to finish a Peaks Challenge Falls Creek. She attempted, I think, about four or five of them, and then she decided she needed some help, so she got me enrolled, and she finished her first one a couple of years ago. So
Well, she didn't miss a climb on
yeah,
the epics this year.
yeah,
She did not miss a climb, so it was
yeah,
amazing.
yeah. She used to come along to our training camps in Bright. So yeah, fantastic.
Again, beautiful scenery up in the on the road to Orbisk. You can see a few of the riders who are coming through in the background, but you just got yeah, meadows, big rocks, mountains, old cirques. It's yeah. I guess if you're a geologist, you should contract them to come on the tour and explain all of this because some of the scenery is incredible. This is one of our favorite experiences as well. It's about a 10-kilometer road that links the Orbisk to the Sulua summits, and you've probably seen it because at least 60 odd occasions in the Tour de France, they've ridden this road, and it's basically a road that hugs the edge of the mountain. We're always riding from the Orbisk towards Argelis, so on the right side. So you always feel like you've got the rock wall with you. And some people don't like it on the other side, which is obviously understandable. On the side that we ride, we always feel really comfortable. It's a beautiful quality road, and it's just hugging from one summit to the other. You can, in the left top corner of that, you can see that road. You can see that road. It's just hugging the border. So it's when you watch the Tour de France, it's one of the most iconic helicopter shots, and it's just incredible. And to be able to get out there and actually ride that, and we do it, well, usually we do 2 or 3 trips a year through here, whether it's the Tour de France, epic style tours, or just private groups. So it's one of our all-time favorite locations to ride, that's for sure. It's the same again. We can probably just keep moving through there, but you can see the landscapes. This is to show that we also get off the road there. So the asphalt, well, it's not as perfect, but it's totally acceptable. And this is up to the Cirque de Tramous. This is the one where the race would like to get to, the tour. As we were riding up here this year, we had at least 4 or 5 different moments where the little Pyrenees marmots came out, and we were stopping and listening to their calls and watching them run across the roads and stuff like that. So this is because it is such a quiet area. You've got full nature, not just scenery, but also the local wildlife as well. Medieval townships. Basically, we like I said before, we're in agricultural areas, but we also make sure whenever it's possible to pull into all the lovely little villages. There's great spots to take a coffee and to chat about the ride. So this is Saint-Savin, down near Jalles Gazost in the Midi-Pyrenees. Again, just showing the routes intersect monuments. So where we obviously design the routes for the best cycling, but there's also moments where we try to make sure that you are also not just suffering on hill after hill. It's all about the adventure. So this is part of it as well, picking beautiful routes that go past historical sites as well. Wow. And the Tourmalet. In that epic final stretch of the Tourmalet, this is coming from La Mongie ski station, sweeping around, be about the last 500 meters to the summit here, to that big Octave Lapisse statue. And yeah, you can see this was in June. So we're going towards the end of July. At the start of June, you can still get a little bit of cloudy, sort of high teens, low 20s, but we'll be going in end of July next year, in the best month for riding the Pyrenees.
Fantastic. Caroline's sporting a pair of cycling informed socks.
There you go.
There you go.
And again, there's always stories around some of these climbs. Basically, the story goes that there was a rider who broke his forks descending the Tourmalet back in the early 1910s, and you weren't allowed to have any support. You had to look after yourself, being mechanical support, food, everything. So the story goes that at the bottom of the Tourmalet down there in Sainte-Marie-Campan, the rider found a blacksmith in operation, and he took his bike in, and whether you believe the story or not, they say it's true. He was able to fix his forks and continue on. So that's just a monument there again that you can find at the bottom of the descent there.
All right, I think that's it for those images. Yep, cool.
I don't know if there's any questions at this point around this trip, or we move on.
Just put it in the chat. You're all muted at the moment, so you can either raise your hand or put it in the chat, or nod your head, or no. Looks like everybody's okay. We'll keep moving then.
Yeah.
So Epic Italy.
Perfect. Yeah, we've always, since I think it was 2013, we did our first Giro d'Italia tour. And obviously, when you go across to start doing Giro d'Italia tours, you're always finding yourself in the Dolomites. More often than not, the final week action is hitting some of the big climbs in the Dolomites. So we began cutting our teeth in the Dolomites. Then in the year before COVID, I think it was 2019, we had a private group, and what we did is we rolled out some Slovenia tours as well. And then when we realized when we were cycling through Slovenia, just how close it was to the Friuli region of the Dolomites on the eastern border, we realized we could actually ride from Slovenia to Italy and pick it all up without having to do van transfers or anything. It was like a real eye opener. because different countries, different style of, different lifestyle, different ways, different people. Yes, it was a really amazing experience. And riding down the Soka Valley in Slovenia, you have these turquoise green rivers. You got the Julian Alps, and you're basically, and again, a bit like the Pyrenees, low traffic, untouched environment. So we had a private group last year from Melbourne, a group of guys who wanted something different. So again, we rolled out this Slovenia Italian Alps trip to great success. And then this year we actually had a group of all 8 guys from Ballarat, all celebrating their 40th birthdays, and we did the same itinerary, and it just completed it last week. So this trip's been done for private groups who are in their 60s, private groups who are in their 40s, and it works for all level of cyclists. Basically, the question is speed. And because we're on tour, there's no rush. So we love this area because everybody can achieve all these epic climbs, no matter what their age or ability. It's just about putting consistent time on the bike and being able to do it. So we're loving the fact that we can do this Slovenia Italian Alps in 2025 as part of the epics. So we start in Venice. We have about a 2.5 hour morning transfer, which takes us up to Kranjska Gora in Slovenia. And then we get started with a 50-kilometer afternoon ride over Vršić Pass, which takes us down to Bovec, which will be our base for a couple of nights. And then basically Bovec is the region when you go back and you see also young Tadej Pogačar training as a teenager and early camps with the amateur and recreational teams. You spend a lot of time in this region because you have Vršić Pass, you have Mangat Saddle, you have lots of other climbs up to the Italian border. So we're basically in his training ground, I guess you'd say. So that's a good start, riding into Slovenia. Then we have a 100-kilometer ride on day 3, which takes us from Bovec to Alvaro. And Alvaro was also another area where Chris Froome spent plenty of time when he was trying to win the Giro to do his sort of pre-reconnaissance altitude training. So he would use that because Monte Zoncolan was always a critical climb on probably every second or third year at the Giro. If you weren't able to do Zoncolan, you might lose the Giro there. So on this day, we do 100 Ks from Bovec to Alvaro, really lovely ride. And then there's the optional extra to go and do Zoncolan. Now, Zoncolan's not going to be for everybody because it's like Angliru in Spain. It's like Mortirolo in Italy. It's in the top 3 probably hardest road cycling climbs in Europe for the professionals. So the fact is it's there, it's the option, and many people like to take it on. Others like to at least try and ride half of it. But the beautiful thing is there's already a fantastic 100K ride, which is only for the whole tour. It's only like just over 1,000 meters of elevation gain. So it's actually one of the easiest rides for that trip if you don't add the Zoncolan. Then from Zoncolan, what we do is we get ourselves then into the heart of the Dolomites, being the Cortina d'Ampezzo and the Araba areas. Trithime Lavaredo is a climb that probably people have seen, at least in the last few years. They've had a couple of summit stage finishes up to Trithime. It's an incredible geological landscape with like 3 mountains. Lots of hikers are up there taking the most of it. And we can ride up there. The last, again, 4 or 5 Ks is without traffic. There's the bus that takes the hikers up and down, but you know when the bus is coming. And apart from that, it's just cyclists and hikers. So it's a really great experience up there. Cortina d'Ampezzo, down at the bottom there, it will actually be used for the World Championships, the World Ski Championships I think it's this November or December. So Cortina is a great playground for both winter and summer outdoor activities. You've got Passo Giao, you've got Passo Falzarego, there's Valparola, which is not there on the map. And then where we'll be staying is in the heart of the Sala Ronda in Araba, which you've got the 4 climbs of the Sala Ronda. It's basically a 60K loop with about 1,800 of elevation gain, lots of 5 to 8K climbs. You've got Passo Poroi, you've got Passo Sella, Passo Garena, and Passo Campolongo. So by putting all those 4 climbs together, you tick off the Sella Ronda. And for many, it's probably the jewel of the Dolomites, that loop. Then when you add Passo Gel, Passo Fedaya, and Falzarego, which are all within 20 k's radius of where we're staying, you can see that we're also creating Sella Ronda, but with a lot of Giro d'Italia history as well. That basically rounds out a really amazing initial 5 or so days riding Julian Alps and the Dolomites between Slovenia and Italy. And then we can see we've got the little van symbol there that needs to drive us 2 hours from Canazei on the edge of the Dolomites to Salandro, which is then on the edge of the Stelvio National Park. And there's not too many words there. Stelvio, you can see 2757. It's the second highest pass in Europe. Col du Tourmalet in French Alps is the highest. But the Stelvio for sure has 50 times more name than Col du Tourmalet, even though it's the second highest. And David and Jodie rode that a couple of years ago. So can you remember? Is it still a blur, or can you remember it?
It's every single kilometer.
I remember coming up to it and looking and seeing the zigzags and like, oh my God, I've still got to get up there.
Yeah, because you ride the first 15 Ks more or less through the woods, through the forest. It even takes a long time before you get the first 48 switchback climb, and then you go, geez, number 48 signboard's just coming in now. I've still got to get down to 1. And then when you, like Jodie said, you get around one of the final corners as you start to get out of the tree line, and you've still got 8 Ks to the summit, and you just see that wall of zigzags all the way to the top. But the great thing is it's still eye candy. It's sort of like, wow, I'm going to do this. It's like, tired. I'm tired, but I'm going to get there. That just looks incredible. And so,
yeah. I mean, I'm a 45-minute rider, and I got up there. So,
yeah.
It was just lots of 45 minutes.
Yeah, you got to put it into blocks. You got to tick off the blocks and get there. But I mean, the thrill, I guess, and the sense of achievement when you get to the top of Stelvio and all the different boards that they've got up the top, and even the little podiums, and it just, everyone's up there, smiles on their faces, getting all the photos, and
the rest of the tour group cheering you through.
Yeah, it's awesome. So the Stelvio, well, for me, Passo Giao, Trithema, Lavaredo are some of my favorite climbs. Stelvio also wins just for its wow factor, I guess, the fact that you're so high and it's been such a monumental effort. We do that initial 20 Ks riding from Salandro through the apple orchards along the valley bike path, just to be able to, I guess, get the body warmed up, and then we're ready for the Stelvio. So that's a great day. Then you descend straight down to Bormio, where we have another base for a good couple of nights. Bormio gives plenty of opportunities because we always have the chance to ride Passo Gavia, which is, again, it's a 25-kilometer climb steeped in Giro history. Very similar statistics to Stelvio, but Stelvio is more of a modern design road, whereas Gavia is a very unpredictable road where you start with a slow grind, then you get tight, narrow road, then it's got the switchbacks, then you go up through the forest, then you go out of the forest, then you got the lakes at the top. You're sort of always varying your cycling. In Stelvio, you get into the gear and you just ride that same gear basically the whole climb, but the Gavia is always testing you with different ramps, then flat sections, then false flats, and then another steep section. So it's something that always keeps clients interested, the fact that they have, from Bormio, 2 massive climbs, but still quite different. And we'll see some photos a little bit later, but one of the most amazing climbs, thankfully, they, about 5 years ago, asphalted the road up to Laghi de Cancano, the reservoirs there from Bormio, and we'll see some photos. It's got switchbacks that basically, I think they beat Alpe d'Huez, but you can see the photos in a second. And then basically from that point, we've got a the trip finishing on Lake Como. I think those who did Epic Italian Alps 2 years ago, because we had a break from the Epic Italian Alps this year, they'll say that the finish on Lake Como was pretty special because we got an exceptional loop ride around Lake Como doing Gescialo and Sormano, but at the same time we might like to finish it off with, there was a beautiful boat trip which we enjoyed on Lake Como, a great way to finish what's really a huge achievement and a fun adventure. So this trip's got a little bit of everything. The fact that you're in Slovenia, the Dolomites, the Stelvio National Park, and then Lake Como. So it's all done at a pace as well, which doesn't feel rushed. The fact that we have 2-night stays in most places means that you really are enjoying the area. This is Passo Campolongo. This is the fourth of the climbs in the Sella Ronda. So as you climb, you can see Corvara, the township below, which is famous for the Maratona de Dolomites Gran Fondo, and that's climbing out in the, again, green meadows, Dolomite peaks all around. It's a very special location for cycling. This is Passo Sala, another of the Sella Ronda climbs. You're just riding in the shadows of these huge rock walls. Really amazing place. This is Slovenia. This is the first climb you'll ride on the whole tour. This is riding up Vršić Pass. So what you've got is the Triglav National Park, and this is the Julian Alps. So again, amazing spot for cycling. And that goes through to Bovec, which will be our base for the first 2 nights. This is the first group that we took up there 2 years ago when we had a private group wanting an Italian Alps, but with something different. So a group of mates from Melbourne, all cycling abilities, all got the job done at their own speed. You can see the sign down to Bovec, our base, Mangart Saddle. Again, the last 8 or 9, I can't remember exactly, but the last 8 or 9 Ks, again, no traffic. So you ride up through there, and then you basically have the final climb. And it's really amazing, Mangart Saddle, because when you get to the summit, you're actually so close to the Italian border, the Austrian border, and the Slovenian border. When you see it on the map as to where you've arrived, you're actually in a really special part of the world. What else have we got through here? Ovaro, out of Ovaro, this is Tritheme de Lavaredo. We're talking about, again, a final climb just for cyclists. So, we're riding up there. It's a tough final 5Ks at about 9 and 10% average for the final 5Ks. But when you've got that objective of making it there, and you can see just in the bottom of the rock wall, there's the refuge, a little white building. You can maybe just make it out. That's where we ride up to. So when you get to that point, you get to the car park area, the refuge, and the views, which you can't see here, but down to the right of the valley below, it's pretty spectacular. And you can also see all the hikers even going up to even higher heights than we can access on bikes. So Tritheme, that's a bit of Giro d'Italia painting for the Tritheme, because they had a summit finish up there, and it's always a special Giro day. This was that Sella Ronda, so we just got a graphic in there because it certainly is one of the most iconic Dolomites rides you can do. The Sella Ronda has those 4 peaks. People sometimes think, oh, well, 1,800 elevation in nearly 60 Ks. That seems pretty taxing. But the fact is, we basically have 6 to 9K climbs. So you're always getting to the top of one, having a short break, jacket on, because often they can be up to 2,200, 2,300 elevation on the top of each peak. Riding down, jackets off, up and down. So the day really cruises quite nicely. In the end, it's probably for most people about a 4-hour ride. So it's also like, and it turns out on tour to almost be a bit of an active recovery, because often we get back by 2 p.m. and then everyone still has all day to hit up the chairlifts and go exploring on top of the other Dolomite mountains that are around, or they have a long lunch, rest up. One of our guides is always masseuse, so they can get a massage. So this sort of day looks challenging, but it actually flows really well. and that's one of our favorite rides on the trip. A collection of photos from the Sala Ronda, basically, again, rocky outcrops, dolomite limestone outcrops, all with these amazing Italian green meadows. So the contrast is always fantastic. Yeah, again, with our crew, this was, I think, from the last year, 2023,
Yeah.
Epic Italian
Yeah, it
Alps.
was.
This
Yep.
was probably the
Graham.
breakaway.
Mm.
Graham
Yeah,
and
Graham.
who else do we have there? Trying to remember.
Yeah,
Too
can't
many
remember
names. Too many names.
either.
Greg. Sorry, Greg.
Yeah, Greg,
Greg and
Graham,
Gabby. That was
and then
Greg
your
and
support rider,
Alejandro in our guides. So we have
Yep.
our Italian Alps special design jersey. We always have special jersey design for all the different tours. This next year going into Slovenia will mean we'll have a different one again. So that was the one that we created for last year. Again, riding up through the Dolomites. Jorge, one of our guides, is always a pretty fantastic photographer, so he's always looking for different angles to take photos from. And this, yeah, they call it usually the Cima copy, the Stelvio Passes. If it's used in the Giro, it's obviously hands down the highest elevation, 2,757. Altitude, if they do the Gavia, that's 2,530. But outside of that, these are the two biggest climbs in the Italian Alps. And so Passo dello Stelvio, 24.7 kilometers, 7.4%. If you think about something like Galibier or Mont Ventoux in the French Alps, well, yeah, this is what you're dealing with here with the Stelvio. Some photos from the Stelvio, the constant switchbacks. You can see just in the background of this one where you start to see that vertical wall of switchbacks that go all the way up to the summit. So it actually can look a little bit scary or terrifying for some, but the fact is that by having so many switchbacks there at the finish, it actually softens the grade a little bit. The actual harder sections are down when you're in the forest and you're getting more constant 9 and 10% for a few kilometers. But as you get out of the forest and you start to get this constant array of switchbacks, it's an effort, but it's manageable. And that's looking back down with this would be at about switchback 8, the photo was taken from. So you still got a little bit to do to get to the summit, but you can just see where you've come from, and you always have to stop and take that in. It's one of the most amazing views you'll ever see riding a bike. Just a little photo of the Mortirolo. Just had to fill in a little bit of space there. Passo Gavia again.
Gavia.
This one, which we've spoken a lot about, Stelvio gets all the recognition, and people always basically come on the tour wanting to tick off the Stelvio, and they always achieve that. But then the Gavia often makes them work even harder, I think. The Gavia, I prefer the Gavia. It's my favorite climb, just because it is so varied and it sort of gives you challenges at every corner, because at some point to do the Gavia well, in my opinion, you need to know how to also not just sit down and sort of spin a climb. You need to know how to stand up. You need to alter, you need to get up for the ramps, then sit back down. And then by doing it like that, the Gavia really is a lot more fun. And later, David might also say, when we did the Lake Como ride and that Sormano wall, which is part of the Giro de Lombardia monument,
Oh, yes.
you remember that 2.5 kilometers? I mean,
Yep.
you can't sit down on that and just ride that. You have to be able to get up out of the saddle and do a few other things as well. So the Italian Alps, compared to the Pyrenees, has a few more shorter and sharper ramps if you want to ride every kilometer. Obviously, not everybody wants to ride every kilometer, and that's totally okay, because there's the chance with the support van, but there are a few little areas there in this Italian Alps trip. This is the Sormano wall. And it's just an amazing experience, because they paint the road and they do it so perfectly and beautifully that as you're riding across it, I think they count down every meter that you make.
Yeah. Vertical
Because
meters
that's how
of climbing.
every
They mark.
meter, because it's just such a challenge. But the that final monument of the European Pro Season, Giro de Lombardia, if it might get onto this Sormano wall, well, probably once every three years, and it's one to be reckoned with. It's quite an experience. And David, you rode from start to finish on that one.
Yeah, all the way up.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Yeah. You kind of get halfway up and it's like you just got to keep pedaling. You know, you got to have a few conversations with yourself because it's so hard.
It's only 2 kilometers, but it's one.
Someone else did attempt it and fell off.
Yeah. Oh,
Not
we
me.
had we had a few riders.
I was smart. I didn't try.
You didn't ride it. We had a few riders get up there.
Yeah.
3
all made it. One, like Jodie said, might have just had a little sideways topple.
Just a little one. Yeah. It was at the gate.
25% at some point there.
Yeah.
So
it's I mean, you're riding that slow that you just basically it's just incredible. Anyway, cool. All right. I think we've got some photos, so let's
have a look at some other photos.
Yep. Italy. Cool.
No, you've already seen this one. There might be a bit of overlap. It's hard to know. This is the young guys who came on the 40th celebration just last week, and this was them going up Zoncolan, the early sections of Zoncolan. So it's one of those climbs where we've had people on Giro d'Italia tours make it. You just got to take your time and work out and manage it, take little stops and rests. It's pretty hard to make the full 9 kilometers in one hit. It's about 11% average over 9 kilometers. But it's there. It's there for the taking. It's one that while you're there in that Ovaro, Friuli region of the Dolomites, it's there to attempt if you want to. Again, this is looking on the top of near Mangat Saddle, near the top of the Slovenian Pass. The group just got a nice big photo, and you can see just layers and rows of mountains all around. This is the top of Passo Pordoi. So you're in the heart of the Sala Ronda and the Dolomites. And at the top of this climb, you've got the Fausto Coppi statue, which everybody loves to get a photo with. Obviously, Coppi, the champion of the champions, was what his Italian nickname was. And basically, through his heroics in the Dolomites and all his Giro victories, basically the Dolomites was where he made his name. So that's why he has his statue up there. Again, we have our Stelvio cycling jersey that we designed. So we just had the guys from Ballarat all in show. It's like another part of the trip where people also like to take that cycling jersey that we design and put it as part of a memento, a souvenir. So we do that for all our trips as well. This is Laghi de Cancano, and now this is like a big thank you to Bormio, who finally decided to asphalt this. And so the Giro's been coming up here for the last 2 or 3 races. Before that, it was gravel, so you had to have a gravel bike. But now road cyclists as well can get all the way up, and it's just a constant set of switchbacks, lots of 7%. People, after doing Gavia, Mortirolo, and Stelvio, you look at this and think that must be tough, but they actually find it just so easy after doing all the other climbs, because it's an 8-kilometer climb. It's not one of these 24, 25-kilometer climbs, and it's just one that we throw in there after doing a Gavia or whatever, and you can just come in and ride that as an optional. Sometimes, obviously, when you're doing 9-night, 10-night trips, there might be a wet day in there somewhere and a plan needs to be tweaked or whatever. But if that happens, often when we're sitting around in Bormio and we don't want to get too far away, this is a great climb because it's right on our hotel doorstep. So we always are looking for options. And usually at this time, we're going in July and August. We're going in the best months to ride the Pyrenees and Dolomites. But we're in the high mountains, we're in the high Alps. So we also always looking at the weather and making sure we're doing the safest and best rides for everybody. Enjoying. This is part of the thing when you finish the top on a big climb and you got the chance with your mates or your cycling groups just to sit at the top and and bask in a bit of, even though you're at 2,650 elevation there, you might have to have your vest on still. It's still summer, but chatting, talking about the achievements, who attacked when, who did what. It's always part of the joy of cycling and doing a big adventure like this. So we enjoy those moments as well. We've seen that Slovenia photo. This one's going up the earlier sections of Pordoi. So we sleep down in Araba, which is a lovely little village in the heart of the Dolomites. And basically we get started on Passo Pordoi. Again, beautiful mountain landscapes all around. We've seen that one, Passo Sala, and the Somano Wall, which is famous from the Lombardia, and rugged Slovenian mountain landscapes all around on beautiful asphalt.
That's it. Fantastic. All right.
So both trips have got features that will probably, interest certain riders. I think the Pyrenees, some people might have already come across and ridden in the past the French Alps or somewhere like that. The Pyrenees has definitely got a lot of appeal for riders now looking to do very good sort of 80 to 100 kilometer rides, daily rides, a couple of climbs, but also with the chance to intersect valleys and not just have really tough rides day on day. And the Slovenia Italy Alps has a few more ramps in there. They're probably, people looking for an extra climbing challenge. The elevation gains end up all working out to be very similar on both tours. It's just that when I ride the Pyrenees, I can often just get in the right gear and sit down and do the whole trip. But when I'm riding in Slovenia and Italy, I'm often finding myself having to get out of the saddle, change things up a bit. So you need to also train for that and practice for that. So both trips are really special. And obviously we're really excited to getting back in there and getting out there July and August next year.
Fantastic. Awesome. Thanks so much, Paul. So did anybody have any questions? You're welcome to either unmute yourself or just post
There was a question from Philip that I tried to answer during the chat with regards to bikes and gearing.
Yeah. So for those people that are looking at options, Paul, you've got hire bikes.
Yeah, we've just invested in a whole range of Orbea, Orca, Di2 105 hire bikes. So they've all got compacts and 34 cassette on the back. They're getting great reports this year. It's like in the past, our hire bikes were more simple sort of mechanical shifting, but as you know, we're going up and making sure we got the latest technology. So people can usually 50-50 bring their own bikes and then others hire. So that we do have very suitable, high quality bikes to get you over these sort of Alp terrains.
Yeah, fantastic. And just around logistics, so for those people that are obviously interested in the tours, getting to and from the tour, Paul's got a tour operator that can help you with getting that sorted out as well. Do you want to have a quick chat about that, Paul?
Yeah, I mean, obviously we're over here in Spain, we're a licensed travel agency under the Spanish legal system. But we also, coming from Australia and setting up the business initially 12 years ago in Australia, we also have Pellegrino Travel Agency in Victoria, just on the outskirts of Melbourne, who for 12 years have been organising different flights for our clients, their insurance, any pre-tour, post-tour accommodation, or fast train tickets through France or whatever is required. So Fausta does all that for us. Basically, clients get in contact when they're signing up on a tour. They basically get themselves booked on the tour. And then from there, we introduce, if someone needs that assistance, it's totally non-obligation quotes. They can see what they need to get done. And we're able to help on that side of things as well. When we do the itineraries, because we've come to San Sebastian, we're finished in Toulouse, we're going through Venice, finishing in Milan. We've also done so many cycling trips through there that if people also have any questions about, what could we do for 2 or 3 extra nights here or pre or post tour, we always provide whatever information and knowledge that we've got there to help people, because it's always fun. Some people even decide to spend a couple extra nights on Lake Como and just post tour, chill out and enjoy the lake surrounds. Toulouse is also great. San Sebastian we've talked about, in Spanish coastal town. Some people usually, what have we got? Last time round we had a couple do the double back to back, so they did the Pyrenees and the Italian Alps, and they also then took advantage of the Venice transition package, which is a couple of nights where just with the tour directors, myself and Dave and Jodie, we help get across to Venice. We look after your bike and luggage if you don't want to carry all that, because the vans also are making that leapfrog from one tour finish to another tour start, so you don't have to worry about dragging all that extra luggage across. You just sort of get on a flight that we organize and we all go across together from Toulouse to Venice next year, and you can also enjoy that.
Yeah, fantastic. And there's also an option for non-riding people. So just a quick chat about that. We've got about 8 minutes left. So
we've just had a question about bikes too. So
Mark's got a question about the bike. So yeah.
So question about that, the high bikes.
What process ensuring bike fits you?
We've got a bike fit measurement form, which has got an A, B, and C measurement, being the saddle height, the reach, and also from the stem to the center of the wheel. So with those A, B, C measurements, which we get, and also information on the current bike model that you're riding, we're able to marry all that up and get, I mean, we're doing at least 100, 150 sort of bike high measurements and stuff like that a season. So we've got good experience on getting people. Obviously, every bike has its slight different geometry, but we have lots of experience on getting those bikes dialed in as closely as possible. Yeah. Most people will then still bring their own saddle. That's fine, because you're doing obviously challenging rides and you want to make sure you're riding something, but that's easy to change over as well. So
fantastic.
Not a problem. Non-cyclists.
Non-cyclists. Yeah.
We rolled out in 2023, we had some non-cyclists for the epic Italian Alps, and so I think testament to the non-cycling package that was put together and the great support that Sergio, our dedicated non-cyclist guy, did. Those two couples are actually joining again to do the epic Pyrenees. So we really worked hard on putting a plan together, but we also always, after getting that plan together, try to get as much feedback from the non-cyclists as possible to see also where their level of interest come from and try to create something that's really tailored to them. So that is something that we've always done and we'll always continue to do. The thing about the 2025 Pyrenees and Italian Alps packages is we are still right in the heart of our tour season. I just got back from La Vuelta tour 2 days ago, and in 2 days I'm off to Girona again, and we've got 4 or 5 other guides just in the French Pyrenees and Basque Country now. So it won't be until probably the end of September that we get the actual non-cyclist programs together, because we're still just going so hard on delivering our 2024 season. But there will be an itinerary specially prepared for non-cyclists.
Excellent. We've had another question come through from Mark again. Thanks, Mark. Great questions. Dinners and breakfasts included in the tour price or on own arrangement or accommodation?
So I think because I mentioned before, we've got 9 nights and 10 nights tours for the 2025. Obviously, all the breakfasts are obviously included in terms of the hotel deal. And then usually, I think I can't remember off the top of my head, but for 9 nights, there'll probably be at least 5 of the dinners with beer and wine and drinks included. And probably for the 10 night, I can't remember if we have 6, but it's always 5 or 6 tour dinners with drinks included, because also we like to allow 3 or 4 free nights, because it actually gives clients a chance to go off and explore a little for themselves. Sometimes when you come back the next morning at the breakfast table, it's always interesting finding out what others did. So we like to create a full level of support, obviously, but we also like to give, and we've found that it works really well, clients the chance to also write their own little story and some of their adventures there as well. So I think that's really good. And lunch as well, on certain days, there'll be at least 3 or 4 times we'll put on a picnic lunch on one of the climb summits. David and Jodie remember some of those we've done in the French Alps last
Fantastic.
year,
Yeah,
and
awesome.
we always put a bit of effort in there to make sure we got a good few picnic lunches in beautiful mountain landscapes. And then on other occasions, we make sure mid-ride we're pulling into where there's a village or whatever. People can organize for themselves a boulangerie, which is like a bakery, or we can pull in and find a small cafeteria. So we always making sure that's thought of and catered for. So that's good as well.
Yeah. Can I just add to that? Often when we've got 2 nights in the same hotel, the first night we'll have dinner with the groups provided by the tour. So you can kind of get a logistics of layout of where you are. And then the next night, you go and find your own. So, which is really good because you're kind of not arriving the first night, kind of not knowing anything. So
Yeah, that's spot on, Jodie. It's always coming in the first day, we make sure that everyone's comfortable and they get a good meal and it's all well catered, and then they've had a chance to explore and even ask the guides questions, because obviously we know other spots where they can go. So
yeah. And in the back of the vans, there's always, sports mix to add to your water bottles and muesli bars and, some lollies and treats and stuff like that. So, you don't need to bring a whole lot of stuff unless you've got specific dietary requirements when you're out on the bike. But Paul's really good for that too, because I've got a nut allergy. So he kind of puts some muesli bars and stuff aside for me so I can resource so that the others are not, digging into the little stash that he's bought me. So in terms of on the road, you're really well supported and well catered for. Yeah,
absolutely.
There's a couple of extra questions come through. Jeff Harvey's asked, are the numbers for the tours capped?
Yeah, we do cap them because we want to sort of have a maximum of typically something around 12 riders in terms of clients, because then we also have the guides out on the road as well. So we don't want to create a trip where there's say 20 or 30. We want to keep it intimate. We want to make sure the guides got a high ratio to clients, so we've got good support. We've also got not only the guides there, but the support vehicles, which also allowing us to always have front and back support on all occasions. All the guides and drivers are working with walkie-talkies non-stop, so we always know where everybody is out on the course to help with any mechanicals, like Jodie said, topping up food and drink. So for us, that element of support and safety and knowing where all our riders are is something that we've always taken incredibly seriously, and that's what we work hard to do. The numbers.
Had a question about laundry as well.
Laundry is always a personal one because yes, we are going to typically 4-star hotels, so we are going to really nice hotels, but that actually sometimes has a downside on the laundry, because then they have sometimes very high prices for laundry. So we always, and Jodie and I do it a fair bit, we always look for the local laundromats. We give a lot of information as we're arriving into town. In our WhatsApp group, we drop a pin onto where the closest laundromats are, give tips on that. And then other times people are really happy just washing when they finish their ride, and having 2 or 3 night stays in most hotels means that you're able to get things dry before you move on. So there's yes and no to that sort of laundromat thing. It comes down to being a personal choice on who wants to pay for that service, which hotels will do. But just, keep in mind that sometimes they do charge, and sometimes it makes my eyes go, oh, really? They're charging that much?
Often we're just rinsing it out in the shower or the basins, like in the shower when we're having a shower. And sometimes there's been a bathtub and we've kind of soaked them in there and, just, used a bit of shampoo to wash out the cycling gear.
Correct. You can make decorations, Mark, in your hotel room. You can decorate your room.
Chandeliers.
We do that. We hang it on the fans, and
Fans.
often the hotels have had a balcony, so we've kind of been able to utilize the deck chairs out on the balcony for a bit of laundry, and then obviously bring it in at night or if we're heading out. So yeah.
I mean, it is summer over there, so things dry pretty quickly.
Yeah.
Cool.
The old roll in the towel and then stomp on the towel to get all the excess moisture out, and then you hang it up.
You can give us a lesson, Jodie.
Oh, sure. Jodie's hotel laundry.
Oh.
I don't drop over your gear for me to demonstrate.
So I think they're all good questions there.
Yeah, really good.
I mean, you can see the itinerary, but how the day-to-day stuff works is also very important to everybody. So that's good.
Yeah. So,
and in terms of the meals while we're on tour, the evening meals and drinks and stuff, it's really well catered for from our experience. You're not going to go hungry. And you get to kind of sample not just a regular hotel meal, but a lot of the local cuisines, kind of some of the places we've been to you wouldn't normally find as a tourist. You kind of need a bit of local knowledge to go to those. So you really do get to experience the food and the culture of where you are, not just the riding, which kind of caps off some of the experiences.
Thanks for mentioning that, because I didn't really go over that part of it. But obviously, a lot of different tour companies or organizations might just, go for the hotel dinner. But that's one thing that we don't do. We really work hard to take you to local restaurants. So the fact that we've done so many years, we've gone to some of the great agriturismo restaurants in Italy. We know the same through the agricultural areas in Pyrenees. There's some amazing small local restaurants that are cooking with their own produce. And we love taking people to those places because we like eating food as well. So it's a holiday. It's more than just a cycling tour. It's actually a holiday. So we're making sure that all those boxes are ticked as well.
That buffet at the Araba Hotel was pretty good.
That one is one where when you book at that hotel, you have to have dinner there. But we're
it's really good.
Amazing. The fact is they change it up also every night, so that's really helpful.
The dessert buffet.
You go wild.
I think Helen and I might have tried
it. Sampled a few of the local desserts.
She encouraged me.
You're burning the calories, so it's okay.
Yeah, that's fantastic. All right, so just where from here, obviously, if you're interested in coming along to the tours, they do book out. So certainly if you've got any specific questions that you have about the tours, certainly let myself or Paul know. You may not have Paul's email address, but you can always send me an email and I'll make sure that either myself or Paul will get back to you and make sure we can sort out any of that, any of those questions. Paul just alluded to the fact that we run a WhatsApp app. So when we get the group together and we've finalized that, Paul will put together a WhatsApp group, and we usually have a few webinars covering off final details around logistics and bike, and we go into details around phone charges and all that sort of stuff. And then when you're on tour, we're all communicating via the WhatsApp app. So that works out really well, and it's a great way. And in fact, the WhatsApp app usually continues for quite a few months after tour, because people are always very excited to share their riding experiences and stuff and hook up with other riders that they've been on tour with on local rides and those sort of things. So it's we build a really good community.
And then they're sitting there watching the Tour de France, and they see that the race is about to go over the climb that they all did together, and make sure you're watching that stage tomorrow. So it's fun. People keep a community together as well.
Yeah. And if you are traveling alone, you can kind of just drop a message in the WhatsApp that you're going to meet down in the reception and go and find dinner, or, go and have a gin and tonic maybe, or JT. But yeah, I mean, you can kind of use it to not be on your own too.
Yeah,
So.
absolutely. Yeah, so it works out really super well. Yep, and I think that's pretty much it. I think I just want to thank Paul for making the time in between tours and stuff, from dialing in from Spain, and thank you all for coming along tonight. It's fantastic that we've got so much interest in these tours. They're an amazing experience, and we obviously did our first epic a couple of years ago, and I had pretty high expectations going into it, and I was just absolutely blown away by not only the support that Paul gave us, but also the riding as well. The riding was just incredible. So it's just an amazing experience, and it's a great way to meet stack loads of people, do some awesome riding, and have a fantastic time and really check off some of those bucket list climbs and have a stack load of stories that you can go back and talk to your mates about. And there's always one climb that stands out. I think for me it was Stelvio and Mont Ventoux and Alpe d'Huez, and anyway, it was just amazing, just incredible, and the descents and the scenery, it's just, well, to die for. So yeah, it was, and we're obviously going to be repeating it again next year. So I'm so looking forward to taking a stack load of new and assisting riders over some of those amazing climbs. So yeah. Anyway,
Yep.
Look, I got another call I've got to get to. They know I'm going to be rocking up a little bit late, but that's cool. And so thanks again very much for coming on the call. And certainly if you've got any questions or anything, just let us know. And we'll do our very best to get back to you with some answers, all right? So,
And thanks, David, for putting it on the webinar. Appreciate it.
You're welcome, Paul. It's worked out really well. All right.
Okay.
Thanks
Bye,
very
everyone.
much.
Bye.
See you later.